That is the second time we've started and you've gotten beer on my laptop when you open that thing.
I don't know, man. Certain I guess, brands maybe a little bit more carbonated or fizzy than others. They should have carbonation, I guess, but yeah. My bad. You never know. Just sometimes you pop the top and...
Wipe all this off now real quick. Gotta put a spit shield or something on this thing they have at restaurants. Alright, we're good.
Alright, we're in the clear.
This season is night and day better already to me than last summer was. From a competitive standpoint, when it comes to percussion sections, I think there's going to be 5 or 6, maybe even 7 really good drum lines and piths.
Yeah, I'm super pumped about it because I thought last year I felt like at the end of the year when we were at finals, we were walking around like, man, there's like a couple groups that are playing really well, but in general, like if you think about the top 12, there were nobody that really clearly separated themselves or that you just felt like, man, this is awesome. They are playing phenomenal and top to bottom, it's just good, consistent. Crown, I think, was probably the most consistent last year, but they didn't quite, their book wasn't quite as beefy.
I think they suffered from what many groups have throughout the years, and they just didn't quite, they got the level of clarity you need to win a drum trophy, they just didn't have the content.
The vehicle.
And that's obviously not on the performers, but we'll get into Crown and stuff in a few minutes here. But before we move any further, welcome everyone to the Aged Out Podcast with your hosts, Mike Fantini and
Evan Worrell.
And make sure, as always, before we get going here, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the Instagram account. It's all just Aged Out Podcast. Find us on Facebook. Every one of those likes and follows and subscriptions counts. And I'll take this as an opportunity real quick to talk about the next plan. We've had multiple people throughout the lifespan of this podcast ask us if they can listen to it or download it anywhere else. And we're starting the process here very soon this summer to get on iTunes first. Mm-hmm. I'm looking into different options to host the feed for us, and then we'll submit it to iTunes, and they'll review it. And I don't see why it wouldn't get approved. And then hopefully by the end of the summer, we'll be up on there, and you can subscribe to it on your iPhones and iPads, laptops, whatever, and then automatically download it every time we add a new one. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll give more information down the road when the ball is rolling a little more.
Pretty pumped about that.
Yep.
Even my wife's like, you guys have to be on iTunes. I was like, I know. Just
we're doing it.
Get on my face.
Yeah, so we knew we need to do it. We're finally gonna start that process. But just back to what we were saying, there's so many groups that are already better. Like they came out of spring training and were just way better than they were the last season. And Evan just said it. Like a lot of the groups we felt like weren't as good last summer as they normally are, and it could have just been building years. Groups could have had a lot of
just like a weird like circle of life kind of thing. Like everybody's kind of on a building, adjusting staff adjustments, arrangers trying to find their lane. But now it feels like most of the groups are on an upswing.
Yeah, this seems like we're as fans going to enjoy a nice payoff year.
Yeah,
and just have a lot of fun watching all these groups excel and get better every week.
I was pretty critical of some people last year, and I feel like this year it's going to be easier to just sit back and appreciate a lot of what everybody's doing.
Yeah, so let's get into what we've seen so far. I went to the tour premiere in movie theaters and watched all those groups, and then last night we watched on the Flow stream. Where was that?
The Minnesota show.
The Minnesota show. So we watched all those groups that were there, and then we've been scouring the YouTubes to find as many lot videos as we possibly can. So I think what we're going to do today is just kind of start with last night's show, the Minnesota show, and go over what we thought of those groups. Did we agree or disagree with the recaps and everything, where everything shook out, and then get into some other overlaying,
I don't know.
Whatever. Themes.
I'm not a wordsmith.
that we're seeing this summer.
I guess we jumped into the Minnesota Regional after intermission with like Genesis and up.
Colts was the first group we saw.
Colts was the first group that we actually saw. Red Team, I guess that's what they're called, right?
I guess.
I think that's what people call.
Yeah.
The Red Team. But yeah, they have been doing well. Well.
better than
they've been doing better than some other groups,
and they're having a good year for them. Like I think they're pretty happy with where they are, or at least I would be if I was a part of that drum corps. Because like you said, they're beating some people. I think they beat Madison Scouts last night.
Madison Scouts, and I know there was some information floating around on the internet, like, oh, the last time the Colts beat Madison Scouts was like, I don't know, either early 2000s or late 90s or something like that. I was like, dang, that's been a minute.
Yeah.
So good for them. Not so good for the Madison Scouts. But, yeah, the Colts, the drum line, I think we were watching it last night, I was like, this is good, but not great. Obviously, there's still
a lot of summer left.
Ton of summer left. Over a month left.
I think they're better than they were last year. I can already tell. I don't know if it has to do with staff consistency, but they had good retention from last year. I don't know. Well, we don't really know anybody that teaches there. I don't think.
I think Benji teaches there and Ollie.
Well, we'll have to ask them because
they had a good returning member status.
Yeah, because I think at this point, yesterday was what, July 8th?
7th? Yeah, today's the 8th.
So July 7th. For July 7th, I think they should be happy with where they are. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was some stuff, some roles that weren't there and things, but again, like I just said, it was only July 7th.
The content of what they were playing is
exactly
is good. Is a good vehicle for that group, mm-hmm. Which I guess would take us directly into the Scouts, who finished. They went on next.
Yep, right after the Colts,
but finished behind the Colts overall.
Well, what's the Colts show?
The Colts show was called True Believer. They had all the beds.
I didn't get it. I was kind of bored.
Well, I don't get a lot of these shows, actually. That's probably a good continual theme for me. I'm sitting here watching these shows like, I don't get it. But I think drum corps shows are a lot more sophisticated and a deeper intellectual meaning than maybe your average like high school band show that you get on the first read. Because the drum corps staff has an entire summer of critique to explain their show to the judges so that by the end of the year it makes sense. Yeah. Which is a good benefit to the judges, but as a viewer, sometimes you're left like, I don't know what that was about.
Beyond just not knowing what it's about, I thought it was kind of boring.
They move the beds around. Yeah.
There's literal beds in the field. It makes you want to get in one and sleep.
They had some voiceovers, but I didn't really hear them. There's a lot of people with voiceovers. We'll get into that later, but...
I just wasn't a fan of the show.
I did like that they had traditional uniforms.
Yes, I wanted to hit on that because we're gonna harp on the uniforms because at some point because there's so many weird off the wall WGI color guard craziness going on the field right now, and I appreciate that the Colts have a basic traditional drum corps uniform with a shako and plume and it looks like traditional uniforms.
Looks good on the field.
Yep, it reads well. Let's go to Scouts now.
Scouts
and that
sharp
goofball of a show.
Heart and soul. So many voiceovers. There's like medical voiceovers talking about like chambers of a heart.
I don't know. They give you an anatomy lesson. They literally give you an anatomy lesson at the beginning of the show about the 4 chambers of the heart and talk about blood flow and all these things and where the blood moves from thing to thing. And it's like, who okayed this? I don't mean to be blunt, but who? What?
Yeah, dude. Like, Mike and I were talking, just sitting down, and you're in a staff meeting, and you're pitching show ideas and this, and you're bouncing off ideas off one another, brainstorming, and somehow along the lines they met with the concept of this heart and soul, which I have no idea what they're trying to get across. I guess, like, is it supposed to be a love story? Is it supposed to be like informative? Is it supposed to be educational? I don't really know.
All of the above.
It jumps around. And then on top of that, met with the design of this uniform that looks like a terrible cosplay Spider-Man uniform.
Yeah, it's like pink and magenta and red. And I get it. The heart is red, blood.
There's like a heart.
I understand.
Print on there with like veins or vascular.
It doesn't read well on the field. It looks goofy. The show concept is weird. So I don't want to... That's not on the members. That's not on any of that. That's just design team decisions that... It almost...
I think you said last night if you saw that uniform, you would be like, can I opt out of my contract?
Yeah, can I get a recommendation to a different drum corps? Can I get out of here?
There's a few drum corps that I feel like that this summer. Like, man, I gotta wear this?
I had the same thought watching that show that I had when I watched the Academy show last year for the first time. But I liked the Academy show last year better than this one because it was at least kind of funny. Like, I said the same thing to him. It's like somebody in a design meeting had to raise their hand and pitch this, and almost everyone in the room had to go, Yeah,
Let's
sounds
do that.
great.
I mean, in their uniforms last year, the Scouts were off the wall, but at least they kind of came across a little bit aggressive, and they had that whole Mad Max kind of thing going, and it was gritty. This one was just like...
By the end of the season, Madison's show last summer wasn't that bad to me. I actually didn't mind watching it. I thought it was just not that bad of a show. It worked well. The uniforms fit as over the top as they were. It wasn't that bad. This year, I feel like is a step in the wrong direction for them from a show standpoint. Now, percussion-wise, I think they had all the same returning staff, maybe a few techs different here and there, but the overall structure of the staff was the same. It sounds like I feel like I would, just like they were last year at this point. I don't know if they're better than Colts, because Colts have beaten them in percussion, I think, a couple times this year so far.
Yeah,
in the recap
the last
show,
couple shows that
did they beat them last night?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. I'll pull it back up to verify, but pretty sure that they won overall, and yeah, they beat them in percussion again.
By how much?
0.3.
That's
or
not...
0.2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
it's not great that they're not separating themselves. The likelihood of them making finals right now, based on scores and some other groups doing really well, like Mandarins, I like their show, and I think Mandarins are better than they were last year. I don't think that that's going to bode well unless they do some overhaul design changes on the back half of the season here.
I wasn't too keen on Madison's book.
No. It just seems kind of like random. Like
I liked the Colts book writing a lot more. It's just
much more musical. Colts fit the show.
Fit the show very well. It was very, like you said, a lot more dynamic and had a lot of very open rhythms and a lot of Mac rolls, which I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah.
So I think that's accurate. I think the Colts probably should be beating Madison in percussion right now.
Let's power through these here. Next that we saw was, I want to say Blue Stars went on next.
I think.
Bob the Builder. Terrible uniform. I
feel bad for them because that uniform being so ridiculous is gonna detract from the fact that the show's actually musically and visually.
I liked the music,
pretty good.
The literature they're playing, the source material, the arranging. Those yellow boots. First of all, that uniform does not read well.
No.
On the field,
because the guards were in the same thing.
And the guard has the same thing, so there's no contrast visually. So sometimes it looks very just cluttered and visually chaotic.
Yeah.
And it's hard to differentiate the forms from the core and what the guard's doing. And then those yellow shoes are brutal if somebody is lacking in the foot timing / foot technique area.
Correct. But I think those uniforms, unfortunately, are going to detract from an overall pretty good show.
There is a couple weird pacing things in that show. They have that drum break in the middle.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
It just was very unsettling to me. I was like, I'm not sure what's happening. I feel like I'm in the middle of a ballad, but there's like this slow soul R&B jam going on.
Yeah, it was. And it was almost like the horn line and guard disappeared and created like the frame of a WGI floor.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, well now we just transitioned into WGI percussion for a 45-second period of time. That seems extremely out of place from everything else that was happening.
And I'll give a shout out to another friend of ours who made this comment to me and pointed it out. But those tarps, so you have these digitally printed tarps that you can print whatever image you want, and they're on the field, but they're images of wood or something like.
What was their show? What's their actual show title?
The show, I think, is called The Future, The Now, and The Future Carpenter. So.
Whatever.
There's probably some deeper meaning.
It's
there.
probably a painting
or some
it's
poem. It's
probably based
on
a poem
that
or
it's
a painting.
based off of.
Whenever things are that weird, you're just like, somebody found some piece of art and they're like, let's make a show about.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that works out really well. But regardless, I like the music. But those tarps, it's like you got pictures of wood.
Yeah, and their percussion section to me felt like a definite step up a tier of DCI percussion sections.
From what we were seeing
from
earlier.
what from the Scouts and Colts before them. Like, it was definitely just the sound quality coming out of the drums. I will say, it seems like I felt like I could hear the bass line cut like crazy.
Yeah, the bass line cuts, I didn't think the tenors, they didn't come across that great on the feed, which some other groups did. And then
I felt like I could hear the snare line better than I could last year during the show. A lot more of it cut.
You could hear them better. They had some rough stuff.
Because that was our biggest complaint about them last summer. They played pretty well.
Just could never hear it.
you could only hear them if it was a feature. They were just buried by everything last season.
All right, let's see here. Next up was the Crossmen. Thank you for your battery tuning, guys.
Yeah, they had the best sounding drums of the 4 we'd heard at that point so far.
Absolutely. And then opening bass feature, I was like,
yeah, their bass line is the real deal.
Bring it.
Like the real deal.
Opening snare lick we both felt a little gray.
It took them a few minutes of their show for the snare line to settle in.
Yeah.
Once they did, there was a drastic change in the clarity and the quality coming out of the drums. That happens a lot earlier in the season. You come out, you have your warm-up lot. You get all warmed up and everything in the zone.
Adrenaline's going in the hands.
Then you have like a half an hour of downtime before you actually count off the show on the field. So sometimes early on in the season, it'll take you a minute or two, unfortunately. Especially when you're in a group like, and this is not to downplay Crossmen, Colts, Blue Stars, but when potentially have younger members that have less experience in your drum line. Yeah, it definitely took them a minute or two to settle in. But once they did, I think it was a good indicator of what's to come. Because we were a fan of them last summer. I'm a fan of them this summer already.
Yeah.
That whole drum corps, I feel like, that
Dude,
show.
Well, this was the first show that I watched. I was like, all right, this, like, I feel like it makes sense, and there's thematic things happening that I can pick up on. It's called the in-between. They have the hourglasses. They have that form that starts out where it's kind of the course filtering through at an angle, almost like the sands falling through the hourglass. They actually repeat that later in the show again. I kind of catch it. I get it. There's just cool stuff that happens. I feel like the whole core in general, brass and percussion, is got a more beefy book this year.
Yeah, because that was something we said about them. They got pretty clean if you go look at YouTube videos last summer, but they didn't have the content and difficulty. And I think that was intentional because they knew it was an all-new... It was second year Ricky and Markworth were there?
I'm not sure.
Second or third. They're still in their early fledgling years of trying to build something there. And I think they were focusing on... Because clean is the best, most fun thing in the world. Even if you're playing a little bit easier book than everybody else, if you're really clean, it's still super fun. That's going to help retention. So I think they might have intentionally realized, here's the talent pool we have right now. We need to do something that's going to allow us to be semi-competitive, but also give kids a great experience, get really good and clean by the end of the summer, get them all to come back, and then we can start ramping it up each year, and then slowly start to raise some eyebrows around the activity.
Yeah. They finished 5th at the show, but honestly, I thought that should have been 3rd place at the show last night. Yeah.
Blue Stars beat them?
Yeah, Blue Stars and Phantom beat them overall, but I feel like as a drum corps, they were better than both of those groups. And they also were 5th in drums, which they are probably better than both of those groups in drums also. Definitely better than Blue Stars. Phantom...
I would say they're better than Phantom.
They're definitely cleaner than Phantom.
I thought they were cleaner than Phantom for sure.
Phantom maybe has a little more notes, but
again,
it doesn't make it good.
Because of that, I'll point back to something that I've pointed out on here before. The uniform you're wearing, the name on the back of the jersey, basically, for lack of a better way to put it, can make it harder.
And like
can make it harder. They're the Crossmen and they're Phantom Regiment. Like early in the season, they're going to give Phantom Regiment the benefit of the doubt over the Crossmen, because you're trying to... When you take a group that hasn't made finals in a while and you're trying to build it up, you have to destroy the lower expectations in judges and fans' minds by being consistently as undeniable as possible.
Yeah,
so
undeniable. That's the word.
They literally cannot put you below them on the sheet.
I mean, granted, it was close between those. Between 5th and 3rd in drums and percussion is 0.3.
So it was just all 0.1 across?
Pretty much.
Between the three of them?
0.1, 0.2. It's pretty close. So that takes us up to Phantom, which their show was called This New World.
Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, Assassin's Creed.
Those hoods.
This New World, which I didn't get that show either. There's a lot of stuff going on that is like, okay, that was a moment. All right,
there's a lot going on in that show at all times.
But I don't know how any of it like fits together. And also they have 15 quads, which I don't know how that's thematic with This New World, if they're trying to suggest that we need to do this moving forward. But no one should ever do that. Ever.
Too many quads.
Too many quads. It's never going to sound good. I'm going to say that. It will never sound good. I don't care.
From start to finish, I'll say that moments.
And they're like split parts between the quads. I'm like,
moments might sound good throughout it, but I don't think you'll ever be able to get it to where all 15 of them play
snare
the
drummers don't play
whole
quads.
phrase. The whole phrase. I'd be mad as a snare drummer that I had to carry those things. It's like I picked snare drum for a reason.
Yeah, so if I'm a snare drummer now, I got to take my snare drum to a lot, and I got to take a quad.
And I have to learn to march with quads when I don't have the right developed muscles in my back to handle.
I got to learn to play quads. I can't play quads.
I can't either.
I can't do it. I mean, I can play eighths on quads, but that's probably it.
Maybe that's why their snare book was dirty, because they spent too much time learning to play tenors during spring training.
Dude, and then imagine playing on that Mylar and then switching back to the Kevlar. Oof.
Ugh.
I mean, I guess you'll figure it out, the muscle memory, but still.
The Corps as a whole, Phantom Regiment, screamed one word to me when I was watching it. Well, not one word, one phrase. Difficult but dirty.
Yeah, that's what it was last year. It was very difficult last year. It was very
The tempos are super fast. The drill seems super hard.
It's aggressive.
Tons of notes for the drum line, and the front's going crazy the whole time. Like, it's just dirty.
It's dense.
You got to pick your spots. You got to pick your moments to ram and do that. Like, it's just so vertically thick, and
you got to check mark all the boxes, and I feel like the box they're missing right now is musicality.
Correct. But I feel like it's almost just a result of being so many notes. It's hard to be that musical when you're playing that density of notes, because you're just having to work so hard to play the music in general.
Yeah.
The energy and force required to get those notes out is just high.
Yep, I agree. I concur. Second place, then, the Cavaliers. I like this show. I cannot remember the last time that I watched the Cavaliers show, and I was like, man, I just really enjoyed this. Last year, they did the Men Are From Mars, right?
Yeah,
that show was fun.
There were moments I liked in that show.
But this show, I'm just like, I can watch it, and I can enjoy it. There's a little kind of bit of a hokey part towards the end, where they have, like, the guard, like, dresses or something on.
Yeah, I don't know
but
what's going on.
Whatever. I can live with that, because the rest of the show is really good.
Yep.
I felt like their drums for their tuning last night was a little bit drier than I've heard them in the snare voicing.
Correct.
Which made them very exposed. But I also think that they have one of the better drum lines of the summer. Especially their snare line.
Right now, their snare line is very, very good. I still hate their snare feature.
Oh, God, the snare splits.
I still hate it.
Yeah.
They didn't nail it last night. I've seen videos where they do nail it, and the snare drum tuning is so good.
Yeah.
And it's probably as close as I've ever heard that many snare drums be together when it comes, like, from a tuning standpoint.
From an individual sounding the same?
From drum to drum, sounding the same, or as close to the same as possible. And it's still not perfect. Even when because people's hands are different. Every pair of sticks is different and produces a different tone. Like, it's just...
even, I think if, like, how well tuned their drums are hurts their snare splits, because it's almost hard to tell what's going on. I mean, when you hear the splits even on tenors or especially on bass drum, you can hear the voicing change in your hair and you can process it in your brain.
Is Max still writing there?
Yeah. Okay. But everything's happening. They're like splitting eyelets and stuff, and I'm like, I don't even know what's happening. Like, who's playing right now? Like,
they had a moment like that snare feature with all the splits in it is kind of early on in the show, isn't it?
Yeah, front half.
It's like a 30-second snare feature. I was like, you couldn't come up with something better? Like, Mac is a phenomenal arranger, composer, whatever the heck you want to call it.
He composes some, arranges, yeah.
Whatever.
Composer.
He's really good at what he does, and he's written some of my favorite books of all time. This split stuff for snare lines just doesn't sound good to me. It's just trying to be It's just trying to be different for the sake of being different.
Yeah, I just don't like snare splits. But
you had a 30-second snare feature. You could have written some of the nasty, most weirdest, rhythmically crazy stuff you wanted.
But I think they have the best snare line of the summer.
Right now,
I think that they're the best snare line in DCI. I do.
Might debate that. I'll debate that when we get to the group. Right. I think might be up there with them.
Okay.
So, but despite the complaints about the splits, the Cavaliers, this is the best their percussion section. Their pit is always very good. They're just known for their pit and have been for years. But this is the best drum line they've had in early July, I think, in the last 5 years. Maybe since they won the trophy in 2011, yeah.
They just had like a really good battery blend too, like when they're full. Yeah, I think you mentioned that last night when like the quads were playing with the snares, like it was a good balance of blend from quads to snares.
Very good.
And then the layering from the bass on top was just very, very well done for this point in the season.
Before we move on, we kind of kind of pooped on the split stuff, but something I'm gonna praise here with them is that bells or xylophone quad feature. That might be my favorite moment of DCI right now.
Where they have the marching silos.
So they have 5. Are they pit members or is it battery members that put?
I'm pretty sure they're the pit members.
Okay, yeah.
I am not 100%, but I'm pretty sure.
All right, well, either way, 5 members of the Cavaliers put on marching bell kits, or is it xylophone? Marching xylophone kits, and they go out on the field and play a feature with the quad line, and it like lines up perfectly. They're doing body with the quad line and stuff.
Yeah,
these runs up and down the xylophones.
They're like doing crossovers and stuff on the xylos. And it's a really cool moment. And it was kind of funny. My wife said this actually, talking about like being innovative. It's like, tired of trying to find new ways to invent the activity. Just take something old and chop it up and make it cool again. And I was like, yes, that's basically what it is.
They did. And
well, throwing back to the old school marching bells and percussion. And
next thing you know, they'll have marching timpani out there again.
Oh, God, I feel sorry for that poor soul.
My back just hurt thinking about that.
But, yeah, that's a cool moment. It's fun.
It's probably, I haven't seen every single show yet, but that is my favorite moment so far of anything I've seen.
Yeah.
And the only shows I haven't seen yet are Vanguard and Cadets and Blue Knights. Those are the only 3 top group shows I haven't seen on the field yet.
I haven't seen Cadets full show actually, but I've seen the others.
Yeah.
All right. So the winner of the Minnesota show last night, the Brew Devils, Dreams and Nighthawks, I think is the show title.
Whatever the heck that means.
Whatever. I think you made the comment last night that they are moving a lot more.
Yes, there's more,
especially the front half of the show.
Yeah,
the back half.
Yeah, they don't want to push themselves too far.
You don't want to break a sweat.
Yeah, we don't want to. Can't lose any weight this summer. I mean,
but
the first half of the show, I legitimately looked over at him and said they're moving and playing more than they did last year by far.
Well, the opening set is like the whole core's in that arc, and they just like kind of sprint towards the middle, and jazz running, moving pretty quickly,
and they're playing while they're doing it, which is good to see.
They are still dirty,
but they always are, and now we know why. Thanks to Ryan Ellis.
But they always are early season. They mantra is basically we will peak at the end. Some of the stuff they played. Great. I think it's very challenging. They have so much space.
They have a hard book this year.
Very hard book, especially because I don't think they had as many returning members, even though they still have talent, of course. They always draw talent.
It's the Blue Devils.
But they didn't have as many returning members, especially in the quads and snare line, I don't believe. Yeah, like some of the stuff you're like, man, this is going to be really good. I like the Blue Devils drumline this year. I can't say that every year, but I do like the arranging and stuff that they have going on. But man, some of the stuff in the closer was dirt. That drum solo.
Oh man, it was really dirty.
Filthy last night.
It was real nasty. But I bet they've probably played it as a drumline on the field like 10 times total this season at this point.
All the shows.
Basically the shows.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that at the end. Right now, it's still pretty raw.
Do you think that the core sounded great?
Dude, they
always
play jazz so well.
Yeah,
you can listen to their shows like this one and then last year's and just kind of close your eyes and like melt away into the jazz. They have solid performers. They always have great soloists. Yeah, it's just a fun show to listen to. Jazz, swing.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
No one else can pull their shows off the way they do and their style. They definitely have that.
I'm definitely a fan of them this summer, and I feel like I've said that about like 8 cores so far. Like it's a really good year for drum corps.
It's very much so.
We're either gonna see, because of so many drum lines being good. Like so BD is gonna be really good. Crown's really good. Cavies are really good. The Bluecoats will be up there. Cadets are really good. Boston's really good. There's 6.
Blue Knights are really good.
Blue Knights are really good. What I want to see from and we're going to talk about some of those groups here in a minute that I just mentioned that we haven't discussed yet, but what I want to see is a dogfight. I want to look at the recaps from shows every night and be like, oh, well, heck, the Cadets beat these guys tonight in drums. This guy, or BD won drums tonight. Cavaliers won drums the next night. But Vanguard's good too. That's 8.
Yeah.
8. And so what I feel like is probably going to happen, because I have zero faith in the DCI judging community, is basically we're just going to have BD winning every show and then Vanguard right behind them. And then we're going to have a dogfight for third.
I don't know.
Because when every group is that good, that name recognition and history comes into play even more.
Well, but like all those groups have like one, like everybody you've listed except for
Blue Knights,
and
Bluecoats.
then like Bluecoats and Crown have won drum trophies, so they have the name.
I know, but I just have a feeling that I really hope it's a dogfight, and like every night a different group, every regional a different group is winning percussion. But I have a feeling it might devolve into.
It might be because
also
also
just beats everybody every time.
You can look at some judges too, like, and see the name and be like, this person might have this group up tonight.
In my mind, though, I'm gonna really enjoy watching all the regionals each weekend coming up here in a couple weeks when San Antonio happens, and just
enjoying it. Yeah.
What other summer can you think of where there's been 8 percussion sections that are all just like coming out swinging in early July?
I don't know. Usually there's like 4 at most.
If even that.
If that. So that was the Minnesota Regional.
Correct.
Then
you had
the other show we didn't
Clifton?
see was...
the night before, I think, Clifton, New Jersey.
Well, there was also one... Yeah. So there was another one last night, too, that had like Crown, Bluecoats, Boston, Cadets. Hold on, let me pull that one up. And then I think Bluecoats won that show.
Overall. Bluecoats have a good show this year.
But they were 4th in percussion. It was
that's not going to
Crown in 1st, Crusaders in 2nd in percussion, Cadets 3rd, Bluecoats 4th, and then Spirit, Music City, Jersey Surf. Mm-hmm. But yeah, where do we start? Bluecoats.
We'll start with Crown, the easy ones.
Crown. Okay.
Crown.
I'm so excited for Crown.
All the same staff. Consistency.
I think that was the name of their game last year. They were just so consistent.
And I think that's going to carry over into this season. And initially, when I saw the movie theater premiere and then saw some really early season lot videos, I actually texted Evan and said, I don't think their book's hard enough again this year. But we saw some more recent videos last night. I guess
you get to see different points of the show, and they've also added on their closer now.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, okay, it's actually a lot harder than I thought it was initially. Because their book came off to me on the first read as a little harder than last year, but probably still not difficult enough to win a drum trophy.
And their front ensemble's better this year. A lot better than they were last year.
Correct. So, and the book is a lot harder than I thought it was on first read. So I think they did everything they needed to do from last year to set themselves up for success this year.
A little bit more stuff in there.
A little more beef in there.
And they're playing well again too.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. They play some really awesome high rolls. I love it.
Oh man, there's some rolls in that show, like big beefy 8th note, triplet or 5-lit rolls or whatever that are just to their eyeballs, and it's just the quality is.
The hands are soft, but the velocity is there. It's filling up the sound. It's great.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Second in that show, Boston. Boston is good. They play so many notes. But it's still, I don't think their consistency is great yet. There's some lots I've seen videos of them where it's just like, dang, that was nails.
Really good.
And then the next rep, you're like, whoops.
It's almost like the density of notes is so high that if you don't jump on that running train from the very get-go and you're out, and you're a little off and it's a little gray, it's really hard. You don't really have many opportunities to make that tiny adjustment.
Try to catch back
without
up.
Potentially making it really bad, as opposed to making the slight adjustment to fix it and get back in that sound. So I don't like this. I still don't like the snare drum tuning.
It's really dry. It's kind of boxy.
Very boxy.
Their quads sound great.
Yeah, their quad line plays really well too.
Yeah. And we said this last night too. I'm waiting for Colin to write more like he did at Glassman in 2002. I feel like just like give me a little bit more dynamic contrast.
I haven't been a fan of McNutt's writing in the past.
Some of the clips of them, it's just like I feel like I'm being yelled at the whole time.
Yes.
Like I appreciate a great battery ram, bring it on, but I also need a little delicacy here and there.
Let my ears rest for a second.
Yeah. But they definitely have better hands this year. Obviously, they drew more talent in the drum line than they did last summer. Last summer, they had a hard book, but I don't think they had the hands to play it super great.
Yep.
This year, they definitely have more talent to pull off what he's giving them.
Text Zach Slicker and tell him to tune the drums a little less dry.
I don't think he's tuning them at all. But
okay.
I don't think he does that. Third, Cadets. Dude. Yeah. I don't understand.
This is the snare line that I was going to say might be up there with the Cavies. Dude, that video we watched last night was nails the entire time.
I think the thing that separates the Cavaliers and the Cadets is that the Cavaliers play with a better expressive quality. Like, they have a more broad dynamic range than the Cadets. Cadets are really good, and they probably, I think now they're kind of creeping up the ladder. Like, the beginning of the year, they were getting crapped on at drums. I was like, what is going on? Like, I haven't seen their pit yet. I was like, is their pit holding them back? Like, the drum line sounds great. What is going on? Bass line's good.
The quad line seems a little weak.
Quad's a little...
They're fine, but I don't know if it's...
They're good, but they're definitely not the best section in the battery.
No, they're probably the worst.
Yeah.
The snares and basses are very, very good.
But I think that the Cavaliers, in my opinion, is still better snare line.
Maybe. The splits, man, take them down a notch.
But yeah, Cadets are really good. I think now,
and they're actually they're playing with like what appears and sounds like to be more touch.
They're not
Cadets.
Yeah, they're not choking off.
The stick. There's a lot more finesse going on when they're playing the drum than I feel like historically the Cadets have played with.
I like it. They are good.
There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
Like if they, and again, there's probably 8 really good groups. If they don't finish well, like, okay, it was just a year where there was so many groups that were good, but
I don't think it'll be like last year where I felt
they got
like
8th or something in percussion, or 7th, or that was absurd too.
I don't think it'll be like last year where they finished and I felt like they got slighted or jilted or whatever you want to call it. But if they finish low again this year, it's just because there were that many good groups, probably.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Time will tell. And then in 4th place of the show last night, the Bluecoats.
So the Bluecoats are getting dogged right now, pretty much at every show they go to. They got 4th at that show to all 3 of those groups we just talked about. And
they've been in the 3rd, 4th at those shows the last couple, I think, run-ins. And I don't know if it's because they're getting dogged or if it's deserved. I mean...
See, I don't know. I saw that tour premiere in movie theaters, and I expected them, like they have the last couple of years, to be, everyone's dirty that first show.
Yeah.
Everybody is. It's just the nature of the activity. But they actually surprised me and were cleaner coming out of spring training than I feel like they have been the last couple of years. So I was like, oh crap, this is cool. This is awesome to see. And something I also noticed was Rarick has written really, really difficult books in 16 and 17. Probably the hardest books of the summer the past 2 years. I don't think anyone did stuff harder than they were trying to do that I can think of.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like...
Could argue that.
The clarity might have been a result of the book is still difficult, especially as I've seen more lot videos and other things in the previous 3 weeks. It seems like he dialed back the difficulty a little bit. I think giving them a much better chance of achieving what's presented to them.
I still think that their low end quality is
suspect.
Yeah.
I think this year has been a step in the right direction to fix the ailments that they've dealt with the last couple of years.
Yeah, their blend is still a little wonky, so that probably makes stuff a little gray when you're talking about full battery blend. What's
promising to me about what you just said there is, and we were discussing this previously, their 6 to 9 range, that middle height range, sounds great. This is from a snare drum and quad perspective.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Their bass drums are sick.
Their bass line is
filthy good.
Very good. But that middle height range, the 6 to 9, anything in there they play sounds pretty good. Very blended.
It's probably because that's how they play all their exercises.
Maybe.
Everything's 6 to 9.
That's a problem you can overcome pretty easily. Like if your high end is a little bit suspect and your low end's a little suspect, but you have that beefy middle ground, you can remedy that. You know what I mean?
You can.
They're not dead in the water. I think they have every possibility with the staff they've got to be able to overcome that and be phenomenal by the end of the season.
So they're 4th at that show. I mean, they definitely have an uphill battle right now in the percussion section. They're 4th at that show, and then I think that probably Blue Devils and Vanguard and Cavaliers all are better at this point too. So they're probably sitting 6 to 7 range.
Possibly, yeah.
In percussion, which is not probably where they want to be. Especially, there's a lot of time. There's a lot of summer left. A lot of summer.
It's 5 weeks still? 6?
5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah, so plenty of time, and I think they have every capability because they obviously always have talent. Their staff's been around the block multiple times. I think they have a more achievable book this year. It'll be interesting to see what they end up doing over the next few weeks.
The only other groups that weren't at shows last night, the big hitters were like Vanguard, BK.
Blue Knights are throwing down this year.
Dude, their low-end quality is not suffering.
I feel like I'm just a broken record today. Just everyone's getting on this podcast and just hearing us go, this group's great. This group's great.
Well, I would love to praise people.
I know. Blue Knights, we talked about
kids are working hard. I mean, I don't want to.
I don't know if this was intentional, but the first thing we noticed, there was a lot of videos. It was posted from like 2 days ago or something. We watched
maybe July 3rd or something.
Yeah, whatever. And the biggest thing we both immediately noticed was, well, obviously I feel like they're cleaner right now than they were at finals last year.
Possibly.
There's a really good chance that's the case with them. And we harped on and debated whether the amount that group, quote unquote, performs and emotes when they play could affect that level of clarity. And it seems like, and I don't know if it was just, it's been a natural effect of the different group of kids in the group this year, or if the staff has made a conscious decision and effort to dial it back. But they seem like they are emoting a little less. And that the slight difference might have nothing to do with the clarity increase, or it could have everything to do with it.
Yeah, there's so many variables. It could just be these kids are
better drummers,
gelling together better, they're playing together better. But it definitely feels like when I watch them play this year's book that there are definitely more longer periods of time where they're just very strict and technical and just really dialed in. And man, that might have part to do with the drill too. Like they don't hold as much, they're not doing as much body movement, but they still go after it in some of those big moments. But it's not quite as like maybe technical and intricate in the hands, and you can just kind of feel free to play through the drum and just let the arms fly. But they play crescendo triplet rolls that just warms my soul. I love it so much.
They're easily the most dynamic group. We said the Cavaliers play with great dynamics. Blue Knights play more dynamically, play better. They play good. We're in Kentucky here.
You play drums good.
Yeah. I can't talk today.
Their high end and low end, the diversity and dynamic range is just
there was one phrase where they played like a big open eighth note 5-lit roll, and they just like played it up to their eyeballs, and then they switched to 16th notes, which is a subtle rhythmic change already, and they play like it's just singles, but the first two are at the height of the 5-lit roll, and the bottom just drops out, and they just bolt to the gut edge, and like the most blended, crispy 3-inch taps you've ever heard, and it happens so drastically that like it's like they just pull the rug right out from under you, and that
sucks you in, man. You're just listening to this high majestic roll, and all of a sudden the bottom's out, and you're at the low dynamic level, and you're just like, oof.
And it's so good. We rewound and rewatched that phrase probably 5 times.
And that is hard, man. I'm not sure I've ever had to do anything like that.
I haven't. I never did.
So good for those.
Kudos to them. I think they're going to be very happy at the end of the season.
I guess the last group, the big name would be Vanguard, which I have seen some of them. I caught a part of their show one night, but I've seen some videos here and there. I think Vanguard's going to be good, but I'm not jumping on the hype train just yet.
Yeah, I'm not on board.
Last year, I think everybody jumped on the hype train, and then I saw them in the finals a lot last year, and I was like...
Was not super impressed.
This is our Fred Sanford candidate for this year?
Then again, everyone was kind of suspect last year.
Yeah, but I don't know. You see a group who wins like prelims night, semis night, and you go watch them in finals, and you like hear them ticking like triplet rolls very terribly. You're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So I'm not jumping on the hype train. Granted, that's pretty unfair to judge this year based on last year.
Yeah, it's totally a different ballgame.
I don't know. I'm hesitant.
I'm waiting to cast judgment till later in the season.
Yeah, get some more. I need some more evidence.
Something I will say is I'm
not going to say he didn't do it. A little reference to Chappelle there.
This is not my favorite Rennick book. Usually I am a fan of Rennick's writing. I've liked way more of his books than I haven't. And I'm not sold on. Now, again, it might fit perfectly with the show on the field, but just watching them play standing still in the lot, some of it seems a little hokey.
They have like that jam section.
I'm sure that fits
like
with what the horn line's doing, but
yeah, it
not
really
even
does
that.
a great
Like,
job
it just
of writing
doesn't
very thematically and musically. So
it seems very samey.
But
If that's a word, but samey.
I need to get some more info on this show. It's called like Babylon. I don't know what it's about. If it's about like Blade Runner or something, I'm not sure.
Well, also shout out to I think the first female that's ever been in a Paul Rennick snare line, as far as I'm concerned, that I can think of.
Yeah, I can't think of any that I can't recall back to Phantom years of there being
I don't think he's ever had
when he was there or the other Vanguard
had
lines.
a female in a snare line of his.
Unless, yeah.
So good for her breaking.
Unless
the mold.
somebody, good for her
breaking the mold.
She's drumming. She's throwing down.
So what do you think? How do you think this is going to shake out? I
posted online the other day. I think my top three. I'll give a three front runners for percussion right now. In my opinion, are Crown, Cavaliers, and Blue Devils. Probably in that order right now for me. 1, 2, 3. Crown, Cavies, BD are my three front runners for best percussion section.
I want to say Blue Knights is up there, but I know the fact that they're the Blue Knights is going to hurt them.
Well, they're not going to go on late enough.
That's what I mean.
They're going to go on too early.
The fact that they're the Blue Knights is going to hurt them like it does for any group that has a phenomenal drum line that has to perform before 7 other groups. The Cadets are great. I think it's going to be the same thing. I don't think that...
I haven't seen anything that their front ensemble's doing yet either.
My safe bet, my top 3 is probably the same as your top 3 you just said. I don't know if the order is the same. I might move BD to the top of that. I don't think Vanguard's in the top 3 right now.
I don't think they are.
I don't think
everybody's hyping him.
They're in that 4, 5, 6 range to me right now. And
when you think about 4, 5, 6, that's crazy too. You're thinking Boston, like kind of Bluecoats, Cadets, and Vanguard somewhere in there.
Blue Knights, like
those groups are all very good.
So, I don't know what I want to see.
I do not envy judges this year.
You don't.
I mean,
it shouldn't be hard.
It shouldn't be hard. Like whoever you pick,
fight.
Whoever you pick, you should be like
tonight.
They played the best tonight.
This group, all these 5 groups that are here at the show that are top groups, have great books, great music. They're all difficult. Well, this group ticked more than that group, so this group's up tonight.
Yeah, it should be a night-by-night basis.
Yeah, I mean, but I really just don't have faith in the judging community, and I really think it's going to devolve.
It's going to get political.
Just get political, and you're going to see BD win a lot, even if they don't deserve to win that show. Same with Vanguard, just because they're Vanguard
BD
and Blue
won
Devils.
drums over Cavaliers
last night,
and I don't think that's accurate. Not for this point in the
season.
season.
You were talking about the recap, and you said that the judge, I don't remember his name, but
Oddsmore, I believe, was on the field. He had Blue Devils, he had Cavaliers ahead of BD
in content,
and BD ahead of Cavaliers in achievement, which is clarity. And I think that's completely backwards.
Yeah, I would switch that. BD was doing harder stuff, but was not as clean as the Cavaliers.
Nowhere close.
No. So I don't know if he was out of position and the benefit of the doubt that BD gets sometimes played a role, but
Cavaliers were definitely way cleaner last night.
Yeah,
they should have won that show last night in drums and percussion.
Yeah, me too. Agreed.
So, I guess let's see here. Really, the only couple.
Can we
things.
Talk uniforms real quick before we wrap this thing up?
We'll talk uniforms. We kind of pretty much already hit on how competitive it is this season overall, but uniforms. Who has crappy uniforms? Let's go.
Everybody. Everyone.
Vanguard. I think those uniforms, they look good on the field, but I think they're stupid. BK, Blue Knights, they look like the purple people eaters. I don't know. Boston
are terrible.
Terrible.
Scouts are terrible.
Blue Stars.
Awful.
Phantoms
are pretty cool.
I don't mind Phantoms. The hood is fine. Let's see.
Blue Devils uniforms are fine. The Cadets are pretty weird.
I like the Cadets though. I think
they're still weird.
They're weird. They're different, but dude, I like the fact that they have like a traditional kind of like Shako hat. I think that makes it so much cleaner if you have like a hat. Bluecoats uniforms. I think are done.
They're just like wearing suits
with like purple shirts.
Yeah.
I don't like those either. Yeah, there's a lot of bad uniforms.
Stop making drum corps winter.
And last year we talked about how maybe it would just reach a point, like a tipping point, where we go so far off the spectrum that eventually it like reverbs back.
Apparently, we haven't reached that spectrum yet.
Dude.
The end of that spectrum, because it just got worse this year than it was last year.
And it's not even about...
Crown's uniforms are pretty crazy, too.
Yeah, they're pretty wild. But to me, it's not even about it not being traditional uniform. It's just about it being a bad uniform. Like, I don't care that it's not a traditional militaristic... Like, that doesn't bother me as much as you look at it and be like, that would be a bad indoor uniform.
Bottom line, just stop trying to make Drum Corps Winter Guard International.
I think some of the groups have done a good mix. Like, you look at groups like the Cavaliers or the Crossmen or the Blue Devils, and they still have like hints of traditional mixed in with like the sleeveless or the lighter tops or the thematic tops, and it looks good on the field.
Yep.
And it's not like so far removed.
Yep.
Like, I would love to have drummed in a sleeveless thing like the Blue Devils do, where they have like the sleeve, like the basketball style
100%
sleeve.
100%.
Yeah, man, it's just it's
not Winter Guard International. Stop.
And some of them are super not flattering for some of these people. Like, I think you should
not a good choice.
Tuck some stuff in there.
Jeez. Ruthless.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. You want to look good on the field. So,
correct.
We talked about the uniforms. There's a lot of singing. There's a lot of singing and voiceovers this year.
There's a lot of voiceovers. I was jaded by it by the 6th group that I saw last night.
The live singing to me is just such an unnecessary
Bluecoats are doing it better than Crown did last year with the vocalist, because they have a jazz show and it fits pretty well.
Okay.
The Bluecoats vocalist does not bother me that much. Crown's vocalist last year bothered me. A lot of the voiceover stuff this year bothers me because it's just like, it's just unnecessary to me.
You run such a risk of singing. Singing live is insanely hard. Like, people who get paid millions of dollars still don't do it well on a night-to-night basis. You're like, oh, there's a bad video of this pop artist singing live tonight. It's like, oh, great.
And they just come out and say they had the sniffles.
And, like, the people that are singing live in these shows are kids.
Yeah.
Who probably don't sing in that big of venues very often.
Probably not.
So, it's a challenge, and a lot of times it just, I don't know, doesn't suit my eardrums.
Nope. But
especially when you're talking about the blend of the human vocal contrasting like the brass and like the
you have to weigh the risk reward.
Yeah.
And see if is it worth it. In the words of Brian Mason, is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
Is it really worth it? All right. Well, I think that's all we wanted to hit.
Yeah, we got next weekend. There's the
Kentucky
show where we'll get to see a couple groups.
We're going to that.
I know Bluecoats and Crown will be there for sure.
Yep.
I'm not sure who else.
I think those are the only two like big dogs
probably
that'll be at that show.
That's unfortunate, but that's okay.
Oh well, we'll see that, and then the very next weekend, we need to call Ben again and see if he wants to do a cookout at his place again for San Antonio we did last year.
What weekend is that? The 21st? Something like that.
I think so. It's the weekend after next.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah, because it was fun last year, and
we'll hit him up.
It basically said that the first regional was going to line up perfectly 2 weeks after this one goes up. So it'll keep us on, get us back on with that every 2 week schedule, and should be good. I'm excited. This summer is really good. It's really fun. I'm excited like every few days to get on the internet and try and find new lot videos and check the scores and everything. Last year I just really didn't care that much.
Yeah.
Last year I was like, all right, well, they're all whatever.
Yeah.
The shows are whatever.
Although, I will say this, the shows this year, I don't think coincide with my excitement for the drum lines and the percussion sections.
That's a fair statement.
Like, a lot of the shows, like, I feel like I'm more excited to see the performances, like the good brass lines and the good percussion sections, than I am to see the actual shows. The shows, I'm just like, whatever, these themes don't make sense to me, but the groups are good.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where I stand.
Yep.
But
cool. All right, well, let's close this sucker out. I'll remind you all again, please subscribe, follow, like, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Again, a reminder, we're starting the process to get on iTunes, so hopefully by the end of the summer at the latest, you'll be able to start listening to us two idiots. I cannot talk today.
You can listen to us without having to have it open on YouTube.
Correct. Correct. So, yeah, we'll see everybody in 2 weeks after San Antonio.
Peace.